Joining us for Conversations with Purr today is my dear friend Jonar Nader, known to many as the world's only post-tentative virtual surrealist. Jonar is also an author of many books. He's a journalist, lecturer, futurist, consultant, and a corporate and social warrior, as well as an expert in technology, management, leadership, teamwork, sales excellence, and staff empowerment. There's not a lot that Jonar doesn't do. Yeah, but there's many of those experts around, you might say. Nuh-uh, not like this one. If we're talking anti-ordinary, if we're talking disruptor, if we're talking someone who pushes the boundaries and someone who is ahead of their time, we're talking Mr. Jonar Nader. Chief of the Defence Force, General Peter Cosgrove, once said following one of Jonar's keynotes, "You bastard! How am I going to follow that? It was a first-class presentation." You haven't seen a presentation until you've seen one of Jonar's presentations.
Really, the worst enemy for any corporation is the enemy within, and that enemy is called stupidity.
He's the founder of consulting agency Logictivity. Jonar consults to corporations and governments across the globe, from Dubai to China, India, South Africa to Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. And I can't wait to dive deeper into the many aspects of this beautiful man, who I respect and love deeply, sharing with you more and more layers of the enigma that is Jonar Nader over a pot of delicious Tiger Purrr Chai. It would be 6 or 7 years ago now, and I was part of a show called The Serpent's Table. Do you remember?
Yes, now that you mention it.
And you were the only one that gave me a standing ovation at the end. And then when you wrote a review, you said there was a standing ovation at the end.
Well, I didn't. I was at the front. I assumed
I love it because you're the only one who stood up. But you wrote it so beautifully, as if everyone stood up. Thank you so much. I love you very much.
Thank you, my dear.
Tell me, you grew up in Lebanon?
Well, grew a little.
Yep.
To the age of 7 in Beirut.
Yes. And you fought in a war?
Yes.
Can you talk to us more
Look,
about that?
I can talk about it, but I must tell you why I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it from a grabbing Australia by the throat.
Yes.
And I know this is a global show, but let's say wherever you are...
But it's pertinent time as well, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And wherever you are at peace, the question is how are you protecting your peace? What would you fight for?
Yeah.
What would you die for? What would you kill for? And what would you surrender for? And when would you do any of those things? So what Lebanon's war taught me is that if you like something, you had better mitigate its loss. Meaning, if you like the fact that in this business or a business, things are running smoothly, where is your strategy for when the competitor comes from out of nowhere?
Yeah.
When a staff member is seen to be corrupt, if not the chairperson or the CEO? Do you ever discuss that?
Or something called COVID.
Or COVID, or any such thing. So that which you love, you must mitigate now to protect. But people are too busy at the beach, having fun, which is what we were in Beirut. The absolute life of lives on the beautiful, clear Mediterranean, Lebanon was just a party.
Yeah.
I can tell you, it's not only that, every street is a street party because everybody knew everybody. You couldn't walk from one end of the street to the other without families inviting you over for dinner and insisting you bring your mum with you.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, we were so naive to what the evil plotters were doing and who wants what you have.
Yeah.
So I speak about it now from the perspective of if Australia were not an island, we would have been gone long ago because our heads in football and cricket and stupid utterances, and everybody's an expert at everything.
Yeah.
And nobody knows much.
Yeah.
Which in the earlier days was great for me, and perhaps people like you, because we were ambitious and we were working while everyone else had their head in the sand. But now it's a matter of national emergency and security.
Yeah.
Except that they usually go on one diet. They are either that TV station diet or that politician's propaganda diet, and shifting them from that position is nigh on impossible.
It's very difficult. What age? So you came at what age to Australia?
I don't know exactly, but it goes something like this. I think I was 7.5. I arrived here. I couldn't speak a word of English. Didn't eat Vegemite.
I know what that's like too.
Nor peanut butter. Didn't know how to catch a cricket ball. Then I think by about 8, my parents decided to go back to Lebanon, not realizing that anything was going on. And in fact, I was with my father in the shop that sells tickets, air tickets. What do you call that place?
Travel agents?
Travel agent. Yeah. And there was a newspaper, an Arabic newspaper, with tires aflame, the photo, front page. And I remember as my father was paying for the tickets to go back, I said to him, what's this all about? He said, oh, probably just some protesters. That was the ominous. We land and it starts.
Yeah. And
everything was on. I don't know if this is a family show, I can't tell you more than that, but the most horrific things you can imagine were on display for everybody. And I say to my father, why did they do this? I was 8 perhaps.
Yeah.
And I was asking him for a reason. I wanted to know, why would someone do this? And I remember he choked up. He had no response for me. And I remember decades later, he was in some interview as well. Someone was asking him. And I remember him tearing up again during the interview, explaining why he couldn't explain to his son.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I have a son, you know, Jethro. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 are the most impressionable ages, especially for young men. Experiencing all that and then coming back to Australia, what goes through your mind? What are the comparisons, the struggles, the challenges?
In the most obtuse way, it actually made me a better person because it gave me a sense of urgency. So when I was in class, Versa, I had a sense of, what are we doing here? To the point where by the time I turned 14, I left school illegally because I just couldn't fathom what a waste of life. So the good thing is that it gave me a sense of urgency and a sense of sumptuousness. And so everything's a miracle to me.
Yeah.
How does soil give you a pineapple? I don't think I'll ever live long enough, maybe until I'm the age of 10 million, will I stop wondering about the wonders of life.
Yes.
So a tiny flower on the edge of a concrete footpath, I would kneel down to photograph it because to me that is, where does the blue come from? Where does the red come from? Do you see how I go on now? This is what happens in my head. So I just went on with you now. But this happens in 3-dimensional terms with me all the time, in every business meeting or creative meeting or over a meal or anything I do. It's happening. Yeah.
That deep sense of curiosity and wonder. I love that. And you go layer and layer and layer deep. And it's constant questioning, Constant questioning.
Back to your question though, thinking of Jet Hero.
Yeah.
Thinking of someone his age and what can that do? Actually, it's a knife's edge. You come out of a difficult situation, whether it's a family dispute, a divorce, a horrific something or other, whether it's bullying at school or someone you love has passed away or been murdered, any such difficulty, you sit on a knife's edge. Yeah. And I think it's only by the grace of God and a loving mother or father or a loving somebody to not tip one way, because it's equally easy to tip one way or the other. And in fact, it is more satisfying to tip the bad way because the bad way is instant gratification.
That's right.
Rob a bank, $1 million in your pocket straight away. I mean, bad things are instant. I can smash this cup, instant. Yeah. Put it together, it'll take you a bit of time, right?
Yeah.
So bad things are deliciously satisfying, gratifying, instant, gives you control, gives you power. So when you're a child on that edge, why struggle? Just go with the flow and do what's cheap and nasty. And join a gang because that gives you brotherhood and that gives you a sense of belonging, which elsewhere you don't have. And it involves all the faculties of love and confusion and hate and being lost. So like you're on stage, you have thousands of people in front of you. When I'm on stage with 1,000 people in front of me, I see 1,000 individuals with 1,000 different stories, and my heart aches for them. Because I know that person in their sophisticated high brand jacket with their lovely expensive pen and their beautiful everything, I dread to think what else might be behind that, because I've seen so much. So that gives me a warmth towards people.
Yeah.
So in the good old days, I'd be lecturing on nanotechnology. This is so unreal. Someone will put their hand up at the end and say, "Excuse me, when's your book on love coming out?"
Yeah.
And I think, why would they think a technologist would write a book on love?
Mm.
And I asked them, "Why did you ask that?" They say, "I just had a feeling you might be working," and like unbelievably, and it's true.
Yes.
And never did anyone know that I'm writing a book on love.
Yes.
And
We're connected. That's another awe and wonder. Was that when you were writing how to infuriate?
How to lose friends.
How to lose friends and infuriate your lover.
Well, it was the germ of an idea.
Yes.
I knew in my heart it had to be done. I'll tell you why. Because I started writing, well, you know, I'm a technical writer, and many other things, but How to Lose Friends and Infuriate People.
That's my favorite. Followed by How to Lose Friends and Infuriate Your Boss.
Right. So it's actually not as random as you think. And the next one is How to Lose Friends and Infuriate Lovers.
Lovers, yes.
Completely connected. Because I realized that when I am in the boardroom talking about leadership and success, which is what How to Lose Friends and Infuriate People is about, it came down to the connection between the boss and the employee and the employee and the union, and like it was them and us.
Yeah.
The hierarchy and you know, the men and the women. I didn't get promoted because I'm Asian. I didn't get promoted because I'm Lebanese. I didn't get, you know, everybody's got this. But then I realized, so remember I said leadership?
Yes.
Then it was the employee and the boss. But then I realized because I conduct hundreds and hundreds of workshops and try and solve problems, that actually the problems around the boardroom are connected, as I don't know how you could say, umbilically or even like an octopus, not to the boardroom table, but to the kitchen table at home. Because everything that happened in business was about people. Mm. And everything about people was connected to the kitchen table at home. Hence, the book on love is not about a romantic love.
Yeah.
Love for me is a verb, to do. It is action. Don't say you love me if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, words are cheap. And people are so troubled in their own life. I meet people who are successful neurosurgeons, pilots, you name it, you do too. And they say to me, "I hate my job, I hate my life, I'm not happy at home." And we keep that beautiful mask on, and they come in with their beautiful clothes and their expensive pen and watch, and they put on a mask. And I don't ever dare rip it off. I don't hurt people by exposing them, but I just listen, and they tell me how at pains they are.
Yeah. Mm. So many layers of depth, and your observations go so deep, Jonar. And I know that not many people are privy to your silly side.
I've never met the silly Jonar. He's somebody else.
Perpetual silliness.
Yeah.
We've had so many laughs in our hangs. Can you tell me more? You only mentioned it briefly about how you were on radio conducting a quiz show for how long were you doing that for? I want to know the preparation that goes into that, because when we get together, there's a lot of preparation. Okay. You don't do anything by halves, which is what I love about you. You used the word deliciousness before. Everything you do is delicious, from your books to your art to your photography to your videos to your presentations. You look at it from so many different angles, and I roll differently to you, but you don't do it unless it is delicious. What goes into preparing a quiz show with all the silliness that I know that you're capable of, plus this sense of this puppet master in the background?
Interesting you mentioned puppet master, because remember when I said I have 5,000 people in front of us and they're our audience, and we're so responsible to them. I'm just going to digress for a moment. We are so responsible when we are on stage, I realized.
I agree.
That the slightest, you could devastate people forever, or you could uplift them for a very long time as well. whether one's a commentator or a lecturer or a politician or a media commentator, every word matters.
Yeah.
And gestures. Anyway, back to...
It's true, but it's true. I understand why you digress. We have a big responsibility,
Yes.
and we both have very intense stories, but you can cause trauma by going too deep.
Hugely.
So
Hugely.
I find some speakers just go too
We
far,
could spend
and that's
2 hours on
traumatic
this topic.
for the audience. That's
Yeah.
not integral. So I hear you.
Yes.
Why you mention that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what our listeners might not know is that your family and mine, we have an annual quiz. And I'm the quiz master.
Yes, of course you are.
Would you believe I would love it if someone else were? Because I actually would love to play.
Yes.
But I never get to play because I'm always the organizer.
Yes.
However, what you see in me organising a quiz is not different from me organising an event.
That's right.
I mean, if you think my quiz is detailed to the second, you can't breathe when it's going on, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if I'm running a 5,000 people, 200 speaker show
Yes.
at the convention centre.
Yes.
It is by the second. At exactly, my timesheets go by the second and they run into 30 pages a day.
Yeah.
And that's how you have the perfect. Now, we're going to have an argument about what is perfect and should it roll with the flow and whatever. Look, I actually aim for perfection and do everything possible, but I've had the worst disasters under the sun that are beyond my control. And it doesn't faze me. People think, oh my goodness, like, you know, I've had actually a ceiling collapse because the scissor lift and whatever else people are doing.
Wow.
And just ruined the whole thing. And people trying to think, how can they clean this up before I see it? And I walk in and I laugh and I say, well, now I can tell people I brought the house down. And you roll with it.
Yeah.
The attitude of what's just happened, I know I can't help.
Do you think also, Jonar, that's because we've experienced much more shit than this?
I have a belief that, yes, life is so precious that if I'm going to now rouse on this poor guy,
Yeah.
did he intentionally go up to bring the roof down? No, he didn't. So why am I going to spoil his day?
Yeah.
He didn't mean it. Okay, let's now play with it.
Yeah.
Make it fun. Leave it there. You know, it
And
adds
you brought
dimension.
the house down.
So when someone can help something, I'm tough on them.
Yeah.
If they can't help it, I'm gentle on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now your question, why am I so intense with the quiz and other things? I think it is what we said earlier. Life is so precious that if you're going to do something, you do it with all your heart and all your mind.
Yeah.
And all your might. Once you know that you spell cat C-A-T, you're allowed to spell it any other way you like, but only from when you know what it should be.
Yeah.
So I'd be lecturing in, let's say, again, I'd say nanotech or biotech or chemical tech and then the exams come in and I'll be marking them. People say, why did you mark me down on spelling? This is a software course or this is a something course. I say to them, you're not excused from, because that shows me a weak mind. When I'm employing people, I ask the gate person to buzz me when the interview subject's coming for the job interview. And we would have organised the car park as such that there's only one way you can park. And we run to the window and it's a one-way window. They can't see us looking out and we sit there watching how this person's going to park the car.
Huh.
So when they come for the job interview and they can't reverse park and they do this and they do that, and I think to myself, you know, you're 35 years of age, you've got the best suit on, and you're coming to tell me you're an engineering graduate and you're this and you're that and you can't park the car. That said it all for me.
Yeah.
Do you know that microprocessor on your phone right now, over 1,000 billion instructions per second? That's the power in your hand.
Yeah.
So we're all into this, we want everything fast and bigger and better. We live in a world of ER, faster, bigger, better, cheaper,
Yep.
brighter, smoother. Everything has to have an ER, the
Yes.
suffix. Yet are we as humans doing the same with
Yeah.
that? We demand that of our technology, we don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a phone at the office. I don't think there are 3 people in my office who know how to actually conference call using that phone at the desk because they can't be bothered reading the instruction manual or experimenting.
Yeah.
So we have all this stuff that's genius around us. It's a tool to help us. I'm in publishing as you are, and I still see people indexing manually I still see people putting table of contents manually. And I say to them, you know, it's a comical thing for me to watch, but can I show you how to do this in 1 second instead of 3 days? Oh, no, leave me, I'm nearly finished.
Yeah.
3 seconds, you can do this.
Yeah.
So now, I don't care about the car reversed or not. I don't care whether it doesn't matter. Life's more important than when, but it says a lot.
Yeah.
It speaks a lot to how you are going to conduct my business. You want to come and work for me and you can't park the car. I don't care. But how are you going to engage your brain when we have an issue with this software or an issue with that client or a legal matter? And if I say to you, make sure the pink paper's with the lawyers by 5 p.m. and you go, oh, well, it'll be all right. No!
Yeah.
It will not be all right. Don't make a decision unless you fully understand. So the reason I mark my students, give them low marks when they get the spelling wrong when it's a technology exam, it's because I'm not marking you down for the dash and the dot. I'm marking you down for the brain power and the permissibility. What is culture? Culture is that which you permit to such a degree that it's invisible and no one notices. That's culture. Yeah. Culture starts with an act, an action, whether it's even an inaction. I won't pick that up. That's an inaction. I kick it, I break it, I dent it, whatever. Act. The act goes unchallenged. Everyone says, oh, it's all right, leave it, doesn't matter. He just shouted at the woman. He just humiliated a customer or staff member. Yeah. Oh, say nothing, keep your eye. Now inaction on this side of the fence. The inaction becomes so silent that this is now becomes...
the culture.
Permissible.
Yeah.
Permissible to the point of invisible.
Yeah. That must be so frustrating for Jonar Nader.
Yeah.
Which is why you do what you do.
Yeah. Well, my mind's always racing. So just now, I arrived earlier for our little chat, and I was asking a colleague to put something in the minutes of a meeting, because I was 3 years ahead. I could see this going legal. And when I write an email today, I don't write it for you. I write it for the judge who might read it 3 years from now. So I always say to my people, write minutes of the meeting or a contact report for an independent third party who knows nothing about your business, who 3 years from now will be reading this. So we're always writing for the courts. Because what is a contract for then? Yeah. If it's not for somebody to arbitrate. Yeah.
Linking so powerfully back to one of your first comments about how are you preparing for what's to come? Are we resting on our laurels? Let's now write for the future lawyers. Should anything happen. Jonar, I stole one of your quotes many years ago. People say that tolerance is a virtue. You say intolerance is also a virtue. Tell me more about that. I love it.
Well, actually, that links in with the question of culture. Remember that if an action or inaction takes place and you allow it to continue, it festers, it grows, and it becomes normal to the point of invisible. Yeah. Now, if you do not mean what you say and say what you mean, don't say it. So when I was a scout leader years ago, we would win everything. And if I had 2 troops, we would win first, second prize. If I had 3 troops, we would win first, second, third prize. So they were, not that I care for winning or not winning, it's just that they were capable. All the other leaders would be shouting and blowing their whistle and, it was constant and, it was just constant. It was hand gestures. And the parents would bring the kids for the camp. And I'd give a hand gesture or something or other, and the parents thinking, how do you do this? I had very few rules. But if you have a rule, it cannot be broken. Yeah. That's the intolerance. Yeah. So I didn't burden my people, same with my teams, my staff, my anything. I don't mind, do whatever you like, just as long as you know what you're doing. Meaning, if you decide to switch off this switch, you had better know to what else it can impact. If you don't touch it. If you know what you're doing, do what you like. But if I smell anything against what we preach in terms of what is I don't even want to utter them. What is this thing called mission? You say it, I can't say it.
Purpose? Wait, there's another one. Integrity?
Yeah, the dictionary. the dictionary, basically. I actually used to steal them because when I stayed at hotels, there'd be this plaque on the wall, and I'd go and visit clients, in the best of poshest of buildings. There'd be these plaques on the wall, and I used to take them long before cameras. So I had a stack of them, and I used to use them. And I'd say, read this for me. It says, but it never mentioned the company name, it had the logo. And they were all just the most dictionary outstanding. If you could actually follow any of those, you'd be superwoman, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there, but no one knows what it's knows what it's about.
So my mantra is simple. Reduce all that down, reduce it all that down, reduce it all that down to the bare minimum.
Yeah.
As Einstein used to say, make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. That's what he would say. So my intolerance is not that I'm an intolerant person. It's that we have electric fences, we have guidelines, we have laws, we have ethics. Now, I don't mind if you say to me you belong to a gang that's between you and the law, and you and your God, and you and your spirit, and you and your conscience. I'm not there to cleanse the world. But if we're in business together and we've agreed that I'm not going to cheat you and you're going to cheat me, the moment I sniff it, that's it, finished.
Yeah.
And there are people who will be watching this thinking, yes, I know that because I used to be their best friend humanly possible, and now they don't exist.
Yeah.
Because you break that, I'm not pandering around that because you've shown me your hand.
Yeah.
So I'm not that I'm an intolerant person. It's that if we agree and you want to break that, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Yeah, cut. Done. Logictivity. You consult to, you've told me numerous stories to sheikhs, to corporations, to organizations, to entrepreneurs. What makes your consulting different, Jonar, to others?
So what is logictivity about? Logic and creativity.
Yeah.
So they used to say to me, he's too logical. But you've seen my creations, right?
Yes.
You can just, yes. So I dispute the idea that it's left brain, right brain. It's got to be both, and hence logictivity. And what makes logictivity different? So I've been offered tens and tens of millions of dollars for my company. People say to me, we want to buy into logictivity. And I've had tens and tens of millions. And I say no, because the moment that happens, Jonar will no longer become the consultant. I'll become the chairman, CEO, or some other advisor, and you'll have 35 to 500 other people running the show, and therefore you no longer have Jonar. It's like if you're Chanel, but you want to buy out Chanel, where's she going to go? Who's going to design then?
Yeah.
I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
So what makes logictivity different is that I am the most expensive consultant you'll ever come across, and that's because I have to run a full-blown business to support one person, which is me. I die, business gone. And a lot of my friends can't cope with that. They go, but you need a succession plan and you need to be able to sell. You need to, life's too more important than that.
Yeah, the practice is you.
Yeah.
The practice is Jonar.
So they get me, and when they get me, they get absolutely no nonsense.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, I often say to a client, why are you even engaging me? And they say, because you are really, really, really good at X. Let's say it's marketing or advertising or tech or whatever. I say, how do you know I'm really, really good? They go, oh, well, it's obvious, isn't it? I say, on a scale of between me and you, how good are you? They go, I'm hopeless. I say, well, I can't work for you. Because how will you know when I give you good advice?
True.
How will you know?
Yes.
And, you know, CEOs have so many points of nagging. Every department, every lawyer, every accountant, the government, giving them different inputs. And here I am giving them an input. And it's so frustrating watching them burn, crash and burn. It happens so many times. They don't know. So now I actually don't take on assignments when the person I'm working with is way, way beneath my capacity, or doesn't have the time to engage, to really understand. Because that's not, I mean, the checks roll in, but I can't.
I want to finish off by reminding you of something that made me giggle the other day. I actually wrote it in the book that you gave me. Actually, you've given me a number of books, but my favorite is still How to Lose Friends and Infuriate People. Jonar walks out of a meeting saying, "Excuse me, I have an appointment with life. I'm not putting up with this business."
Actually, the correct quote is...
Intolerance!
The correct quote is, this nonsense.
This nonsense.
Not putting up with this nonsense. That was actually the quote. And in fact, How to Lose Friends and Infuriate People was born as an exclamation. It wasn't born as out of, oh, that's a nice title.
Yeah.
I was in a meeting, and the meeting was supposed to end at maybe 3 p.m. in the afternoon. It was the senior execs. And they wanted to do something that could have been done in 10 seconds. Just agree to it. Let's go. I couldn't agree to it. And the kind of thing you would hear about later when Enron collapses and when WorldCom collapses, and when you later hear about the most diabolical, and you think, how could you let this happen? Yeah. Remember that thinking ahead?
Yeah.
And I was thinking ahead and thinking, this is disaster on two legs. So I wouldn't agree. The meeting was supposed to finish at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. at night, and they're still at me because they had to have my signature and I wouldn't give it.
Yeah.
And at that time, exhausted, all of us, we were all disheveled by then, and somebody said, I know exactly who it was, and he said to me, you sure know how to win friends and influence people. I said, but it seems like I know how to lose friends and infuriate people.
Boom!
I never uttered those words. I'd never thought of those words. It just came out of an accusation.
Yeah.
And I went home that night, tearfully thinking, why do I put myself in these positions? I'm torn between just signing the jolly thing and doing what I think like. And there was born the book, How to Lose Friends and Infuriate People. So when I walk out of a meeting, excuse me, I have an appointment with life because, I never talk about time. I talk about life. Yeah. If I accuse somebody of something like, oh, you're wasting my time, I actually say it. You're wasting my life.
Yes.
First of all, I'm grateful to be fit and healthy, but I know any second, any minute, I could be dead. People say, oh, don't say that. No, truly, I'm ready. If I die this very next 10 minutes, I am happy. I don't want anyone to cry for me. I am absolutely contented, delighted that I've walked this planet. And knowing that I live 10 minutes at a time, someone who's wasting it, you want it, if you're a child, if you're a student and you want my time, I'll give you hours. The moment I see that you're not, I have a theory with my bike, not that I bike these days, but anyone's allowed to hop on my bike so long as you pedal. Yeah. So you want my time, you want my love, my attention, my expertise, you can have it all. In fact, I talk to people all the time and I give them all these of my secrets, They're not mine. I give them away, I have no intellectual property as such. I give it, but the moment it's abused, oh my goodness. Yeah. So you said the giggly side, the silly side. Yes. There's also the legal side, if you've ever seen me.
Oh yes, I've seen that side.
I mean, if you meet 10 people in the street and they all know Jonar differently, they'll say, oh, the funny guy, oh, that aggressive guy, oh, that bastard. Oh, so yeah, you've all met a side of him.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And it brings me so much joy as well as a real privilege for me to see so many sides of the enigma that is Jonar Nader. And I am grateful that you are intolerant and like to stir shit up because your books... You do, because your books give me so much knowledge, so much insight, as well as a lot of entertainment, Jonar, a lot of entertainment. I have a gift for you.
Oh, wow. This? I know the logo because this is the logo. Is there cinnamon in here?
Yes,
there's
some cinnamon in there. 7 different ingredients in there.
Is this for me?
Yes.
Glorious. Oh, wow. There is no greater life hack to get you from where you are today to where you want to be than the people you choose to put in your corner. You're on my team, mate.
Yes, and you're in my corner too, my dear friend.
Thank you, that's beautiful.
I have 2 last questions for you, Jonar.
I thought we ended.
Not yet.
All right.
If you were Prime Minister, grabbing Australia by the neck, what would be your first point of call?
Wow. You see, I have said in the past that Prime Ministers aren't really powerful. So I have a burden here, not because I don't know what I would do, it's just that I don't think it would get done. That's my issue. So if you change your question and you give me more power.
What would a powerful Prime Minister do flippantly?
There was once a man who died and he left his fortune to his 2 sons. And his 2 sons each had a horse. And he said, my entire multi-million wealth and land will go to the son with the slowest horse. And they were supposed to race. And they were suspicious of each other because they thought, if we truly race and give it your best shot, the one with the slowest horse wins the estate. So they went to a guru and they said, how can we solve this problem? Or the sage said to them, yes, you must race. And you must race with all your heart and all your mind so that we can truly, truly know the fastest and the slowest. And to really know it's going to happen, you've got to swap horses. And now it's in your interest to go for it.
Yes.
And if you can make the other person's horse faster than that one, then yours is the slower one and you win the estate. And so back to your Prime Minister question. I would take heads of department, move them across to the other side and give them the mission to go and find in their filing system the peskiest, most annoying client who has complained bitterly about the department. Pauline, Jonar, Peter, Matt. Matt has written to this police department so many times and his file is still not resolved. Bring Matt in and he's going to work with you for 3 months, because if Matt's gone to this kind of trouble to tell you there's a problem in this department, I want to know about it. So I would change heads, find the people who know how your department works, bring them in, and let's clean out the rubbish, because there are too many fat cats not doing their job.
Yes, do things differently from a different perspective and different context. The more perspectives we have, the more free will we become, right? Last question, Jonar.
Yes.
What makes Jonar Nader purr?
Is a purr a good thing or a bad thing?
What does Jonar Nader think?
Well, a purr to me, some people think that when a cat purrs, it's like being cozy. To me, a purr is a threatening. It's a I'm ready for battle.
Yeah, something stirs when the tiger purrs. What makes Jonar purr?
Seeing, well, I would call it injustice, but it's a bigger thing than that. And because we're concluding, I can't define that too clearly. But I see a man snatch a lady's handbag, I run after him. Now, you ask your karate friends, leave it be, he could have a knife, he could throw at you, he could. And I say, well, the power of the purr will come into me and I'll bring him down. Why? Because if we don't do something, who is going to do it? You see something, you say something, you do something. I think that's a slogan someone stole from us, or I'm stealing from them now, perhaps. That's my purr, injustice.
Yeah. And that's why I love you, Jonar. I love you. Thank you so much for being with me today.
I think I love you a little bit more. Thank you, my friend.
Let me give you a hug.
Sweet.
Oh.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you.